Deadline week came to Queens and David Stearns hit the gas. A rebuilt bullpen, new center fielder, and a clear message. The Mets, they are going for it. But here's the truth. If the Amazings are going to separate themselves in the East, the Fantastic Four, they've got to cook. This week, WFAN's Anthony Gallo joins me to break down what the new faces mean, whether the rotation standing pat was smart, and how this next stretch can define the season. This is Straight Outta Flushing. Let's get it. All right, it was a trade deadline to remember in Flushing. And the Mets, they didn't just make moves. They made statements. David Stearns, he went shopping, the polar bear. He kept mashing in the bullpen. Yeah, it got scary good. First up, Pete Alonso. He smashed his 250th career home run this weekend. Now he's just 2 bombs away from tying Darryl Strawberry for the franchise record. He's on pace to pass it this month. The only question now is, will the Mets pay him to keep breaking records in orange and blue, or will somebody else? Now, the lineup, they got a boost too. Enter Cedric Mullins, a left-handed hitting Gold Glove caliber center fielder with pop, speed, and postseason chops. He gives the Mets legit defense up the middle and can be that spark plug at the top of the order that they have been missing. But let's talk about this bullpen, because Stearns went full closer collector. First, he got lefty power arm Gregory Soto. Then he added Tyler Rogers, who's been one of the most consistent relievers in all of baseball. He's having a career year at 35, a ridiculous .86 whip, 4 walks in 50 innings, the highest weak contact rate in Major League Baseball, and his ground ball magic is exactly what this pen needed. Then comes the hammer, Ryan Helsley, triple-digit heat, all-star closer, and now your setup guy. The Mets can basically shorten games to 7 innings. Diaz from the side, Rogers from underneath, Helsley at 99 plus, and Soto, he's got a nasty slider from the left side. This bullpen is a tunneling nightmare. Batters won't know what angle, speed, or arm slot is coming next. It's a mix of firepower and a little bit of funk. And Stearns did it without moving top guys like Tong, McClain, or Sproat. He kept the future intact, improved the present, and suddenly this roster looks ready to fight for the East and make noise in October. So now, it's time to see if the stars can shine. The pen is stacked, Mullins is in center, Pete's chasing history. This team's got juice, but can they squeeze out a division title and a deep run? Stick around. August just got a lot more interesting. All right, David Stearns, he added 2 power arms and a proven center fielder at the deadline, and now the pressure shifts to the core of this team to make a push in the National League East. So here are the questions. What should fans expect from the new faces? Did the Mets do enough to hold off the Phillies? And is October's success now officially on the table? We're going to answer those questions, and we're going to do it with WFAN host and producer. He's also a lifelong Mets diehard fan. It's my guy, Anthony Gallo, who joins me now on Straight Outta Flushing. Anthony, what's going on, man? How you doing?
I'm pumped up to be here, Dex. Thanks for having me.
Nah, man, always good to talk some Mets baseball with you. Glad to have you here. And Anthony, we're going to get right into it, right? Because the deadline, it's come and gone. Got 2 new arms in the pen, a new starting center fielder. So when you look at everything that David Stearns did here, what was your impression or first reaction to the moves that David Stearns made?
I was very happy, very pleased. I think I wasn't one of these people who wanted a starting pitcher. I didn't expect them to get the impact arm that they ended up getting in both Helsley and Rogers on top of Soto prior to the deadline. I like the Mullins move. It was safe. They didn't give up much. I'm very pleased with what Stearns did.
Yeah, I liked what he did. I thought it was solid. In fact, some people, maybe a little bit more hype than you and I are, and I just think people are happy with it. I've seen pretty much positivity among the Mets fan base. But, Anthony, some are calling this the Mets' best deadline in a decade. Would you go that far? And if so or not, what made this trade deadline feel different than trade deadlines of years past?
I mean, it's certainly the best since the Cespedes deadline. I would say it felt like last year Stearns did a good job, but there was nothing out there for him to make a splash. When they made the Rogers move, I was happy. I wasn't excited. And then when the Helsley news came out, I was very ecstatic. And then on top of that, getting Mullins, it just felt like they went out there. They checked all the boxes. I didn't want them to just blow up the farm for maybe a starting pitcher or, a guy with more control like a Duran or maybe even a Mason Miller. So I'm very happy what they did because they were able to address their needs, but also protect the future.
And one of the things I think there is that, they didn't give up too much, right? And I think that's what you liked out of what you saw from them. They didn't give up too much here. There were some prospects. Some people did not like the fact that they gave up Drew Gilbert, but none of these guys were in the top 100 nationally in terms of prospect rank. So I was personally fine with that. I think the David Stearns did a pretty good job here. Now, positionally, Cedric Mullins, he was the headliner positionally. So when you look at him, what are fair expectations for him in this lineup, and what does he add defensively in center field for this Mets ball club?
Well, I think that one, take away just what he provides himself. The fact that adding him to the roster puts Taylor on the bench creates versatility there where, yes, Taylor could run, he could play defense, but we don't have to rely on his bat, which is non existent since May. And Mullins is a former 30-30 guy. He has more pop. I think defensively, he may be a step below Taylor, but he's still an elite defender. I'm not going to say that he's going to be a game changer, but I think it's a huge upgrade. It protected the kids at third. It saves their flexibility. And instead of having, Acuna on the bench as your speedster, you now have Taylor on the bench who could pinch run. You get to keep those young guys at third all up, who are all starting to play now. It leaves McNeil more flexible as well. I like what he brings to the roster flexibility outside of just what I think is an overall upgrade over Taylor. And it also creates more versatility at the DH spot because we saw the other night they DH McNeil. It gives a chance for Mauricio, Vientos, and Beatty all to have a ton of at bats in the stretch. And I think for right now, without getting a impact like superstar bat, that was all you can ask for from the position player side from Stearns.
Yeah, I think that was all you could ask for, right? Like, just get somebody who could help lengthen the lineup a little bit. They had to upgrade Anthony to me at center field. That was something they had to do here at the deadline. And look, like you said, a low-cost move, doesn't kill the farm system. A guy who should be motivated in a contract year. We'll see how Mullins does here. But let's talk bullpen, all right? Did a pretty good job here. Ryan Helsley, Tyler Rogers, and Gregory Soto, they will join Diaz and company in the pen. Is this now a top-tier relief unit in the National League? Is this the way you're looking at this relief unit right now?
I think outside of the Padres, on paper, obviously, outside of the Padres, I don't think there's another team that is better than the Mets right now in the pen. We saw earlier today what happened with Stanek. And now that he is not like, if that happens and you only have Diaz and Garrett, you're sitting there like, this is a guy we need to rely on. Now, if they DFA'd Stanek, it's kind of an irrelevant move because you have the back end of a pen. Brooks Raley's healthy now. You add Gregory Soto on top of the two big arms you got at the deadline in Rogers and Helsley. I think it's a top tier unit, not just in the National League, but in the entire bigs. But really in the National League, just that Padres bullpen is the only one on paper that I could say is truly better than the Mets. And obviously we have to see both teams perform out of the pen, but I loved it. And I didn't expect them to go out and get the two big arms. I thought we were going to get a lot of smaller moves like last year with Brazoban and Stanek. So I'm pumped that I think this is an elite. This is the best bullpen we've had maybe in a decade, maybe longer than that.
Oh, you might be right about that. Look, they got some arms here, some arms that got some heat to them, right? And just different dimensions into what they can throw at the hitters. And you're right, now they have an embarrassment of riches. Now Stanek, not saying that he will be, but could be expendable here. So it's very interesting. But if we look at all these new additions, right? Mullins, Helsley, Rogers, and or Soto, which of them do you think will make the biggest impact for this team down the stretch?
I think Rogers, because he provides, yes, has the stuff, like not just the heat, but he's got good stuff. I think he provides something that they haven't had, which with Helsley, it's like kind of having a 1A, 1B situation with him and Diaz in the pen. They have a legit guy who is used to pitching in the setup role, a high leverage pitcher where you can save Diaz or Helsley for the eighth and the ninth. And let's say in the seventh inning, you have to get the top of the lineup out in the postseason in a close game, or even in late September. I think Rogers will be a huge impact. And I kind of feel like even on a lesser level, I think Mullins after Rogers will be a guy that just because what he provides, like I said earlier, the flexibility, that will be an immense move because I think people downplayed his impact that he can have just because he's having a down year and a half. So I really like the Rogers move and I really like the Mullins. I liked all the moves, but I really think Rogers has the biggest impact, and then maybe Mullins.
Listen, if those two end up having the impact that you're talking about, I think a lot of Mets fans will be happy with that, right? A guy at the back end of the bullpen who can help set up games, close games if necessary. And if Mullins is motivated in the way I think that he could be, man, this could be really good for the Mets.
Great
Now,
point.
you kind of alluded to this, though, Anthony, because there was a lot of chatter about whether the Mets should have added a starter here at the deadline. In your eyes, did they miss an opportunity by standing pat on rotation help? And I asked that question only because we're going off of the idea that there were arms out there that were gettable, that you could get, but we don't always know that. But do you think they missed an opportunity to bolster their rotation here?
I think it's tough because we didn't really see anyone get moved. Like there was the Merrill Kellys of the world and the Mike Sorokas, but that didn't really move the needle for me. You have Tyler McGill coming back. You have Blackburn coming back. And for me, the guy I need to see pitch better that would give me more confidence with this rotation is Senga. He struggled over his last three starts. He hasn't, since he's returned from injury, he hasn't gone long at all in any of these games. But I don't think that them adding an arm was going to change their trajectory. I think that if Senga doesn't pitch to his ability, it didn't matter if they added an arm. I also believe in Clay Holmes more than most. And when you add those guys to the bullpen, it doesn't matter if Clay Holmes can't get out of the fifth inning. You just need to get 5 innings out of him. And Minaya and Peterson, I'm very confident in. I mean, Peterson's been one of the best pitchers in baseball over his last 30 or so starts, going back to last year. So I don't think it's a missed opportunity. I also don't think those arms were out there to get. We saw the same thing happen with the Yankees, where there just wasn't the pieces out there. And did you want to give up a lot to get a Merrill Kelly, a Mike Soroka, these type of, even a Dylan Cease, like these type of guys who maybe we know the names but are not having a good season?
Yeah, and then you could even add Sandy Alcantara into that mix too. That's a name I had put out there that if the Mets had maybe went and gone for him, but that might have cost a lot. We don't know what the price of that would have been there.
Good.
Yeah, I do have a follow-up for you about the pitching, though, because you talked about Senga, and you said he's got to be a little bit better. He has not been good the last couple of starts. You said you're confident in Minaya. You say you're confident in Peterson. And I kind of liked your mindset on Holmes as well, too. People are concerned about the innings, but it's like if he gives you 5 and you can now make these games shorter because of the back end of the pen, you'll be okay. But you didn't mention Montas. Where are you on Frankie Montas right now, and what do you think the Mets should do with him? And is he a guy you could count on down the stretch and into the postseason?
I think in the regular season, I'm not going to say that I'm confident when he pitches, but in the regular season, I think he can be counted on. Maybe part of my non-concern with him was also the fact they are getting Tyler McGill back, who was pitching well before he got hurt. You do have Blackburn. And when the postseason comes along, I'm not even sure if Montas would make the postseason roster right now. And I think you'd see it, assuming McGill is healthy, I think you would almost have him ahead of Montas in a, obviously mine would be Minaya, Peterson, Senga, and Holmes. But I think I would put McGill ahead of Montas. So I'm not saying I'm confident in him, but he's good enough to get them through the regular season. And if they decide to go to a 6-man rotation, I don't know what their mindset is when Blackburn and McGill is healthy. So I'm not confident in him in the postseason. In the regular season, I can trust him enough.
Yeah, postseason not going to go that far
No.
with Montas with the way he's pitched since he's come back. All right, let's zoom out a little bit here. Do you think this roster, as currently constructed, is better than the Phillies right now? And that's one part of my question. Then, on a scale of 1 to 10, how confident are you that the Mets will hold off Philly and win the National League East? Are you have any confidence that? Because now when you make these moves and you go all in, this is what you're looking to do. You're looking to hold off the Phillies. You're looking to win the National League East. So are they better than the Phillies right now? And do you think they can win the National League East? What's your confidence on the scale of 1 to 10?
I would say I'm going to be as objective as I can be because I loathe the Phillies and I have this unrealistic confidence from last year. I do think it's a little bit of a push because where the Phillies struggle in their bullpen, the Mets struggle in their rotation. Offensively, on paper, I like both teams, but the Mets' big hitters have not gotten the job done with runners in scoring position. I think the rosters are a push. I do think the Phillies at some point are going to overtake this Mets team, but that does not mean that there is a short ceiling to this Mets season because it's a tough National League. And we saw what happened last year. All that matters is you're healthy and hot going into the postseason. But I do think the rosters are very similar. I just think that Philly rotation can overcome the deficits that maybe the Mets right now can't overcome with their rotation.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I think the other good point you made there, and I'll talk about this more later in the show, is that the Mets, big guys, a fantastic four, they've got to step up. They have not got the job done. They've got to be a lot better than what they have to overcome some of their challenges on the team. So we'll see how that works with the Mets offense if it starts to heat up down the stretch. So now the deadline is over, and we're here. August baseball is here. What, in your eyes, what's the next thing that this team has to prove to make you a believer in their October potential? And by that, I mean a deep run, getting to the World Series. What has to happen over these next couple of months that will make you say, okay, the Mets can do it here?
I think taking care of business against the bad teams, I think timely hitting and just surviving this month of August with the starting pitching staff in the shape it is. I think that I'm confident in them. Like I know I just said that I'm not as confident in the division, but I am confident in this team. But I need to see, the timely hitting from the big guys, specifically Soto, who's given them nothing with runners in scoring position. And I need to see the rotation make it out of August. And not just make it out of August, I need to see Senga give us something. I think his next start is either against the Brewers or it might be the start of that Braves series. So that next start, if he gives me something, my attitude will change towards him a lot. But they need to it's the timely hitting, I would say, first and foremost, is their biggest weakness. And they've struggled with it since going back to April. Otherwise, I'm ready to rock and roll and get me to, pennant race baseball.
Yeah, get me to September. But you want to be in a good position getting
Yes.
to September. That is the thing. You want to be in a good position getting to September, which is why I agree with what you said. This month is crucial for them. And I will even add this, last thing before we get out of here. This upcoming stretch, it's quietly crucial, right? 3 at home versus Cleveland, then 3 on the road in Milwaukee. They've been playing really good baseball. What do the Mets need to do and show you in these next 6 games to stay on track here in the month of August? What do you need to I'm just going to forget the whole month, but these next 6 games, what do they need to show you here?
I mean, it'd be nice to compete. I think people are going to go straight to that Braves series and say, we have to take care of the Braves. For me, take care of the team that's the best team in baseball right now, and that's the Brewers. If you go out there, win 2 out of 3, or you sweep them, I would feel really good going into that Braves series. And then as long as you don't get swept by the Braves, I'm not really going to sit there and panic. But, and I know the Braves are not a good team. So like I said, you have to take care of them. But I want to see them, beat up on the Brewers, show that they could hang with the big dogs like they were earlier in the season. And not to get sidetracked here, to go back to the Soto thing, it's time for Soto to step up. I think we've seen times like, yes, in June he had his best month, but he wasn't necessarily carrying the team. They weren't winning games. We've seen Lindor, Alonso, even Nimmo at times carry this team. I want to see Soto go off in these 2 series and really build confidence within the fan base that he's the guy we paid $750 million for.
Yeah, it feels like it's time. You're right. Had a great month in June, but now is where you earn the big bucks. Here in the dog days of summer in August, as you get into September, this is where legends are made, and obviously that legends are made more and you get to October, but if you want to get to October, this is the time when you have to do it. So we'll see. It's going to be interesting. I'm with you, Anthony. I think the Mets had themselves a good trade deadline, and I think that's all well and good, but got some more work to do. I got some things to do.
It's time to play.
Yeah, it's time to play.
Step up.
Yeah, it's time to step up. And I think this is what things are, where things are at for this Mets team. It's now time to step up. The stars have to step up, and players, they've got to execute. So we'll see what they can do.
If I could add one more thing too, I do think it's a huge boost what we've seen out of Vientos, what we've seen out of Alvarez. To be honest, their best hitters the last 14 games or so have been those kids at thirds. And I think that we've spoken about that a ton on FAN, where those were the guys we needed to see something out of, and they're the ones stepping up. It's time for the big dogs to come. Lindor's starting to break out of it a little bit. Hopefully Alonso starts to break out of it. It's time for Soto, Nimmo, Lindor, and Alonso to follow suit. And this could be a potent lineup. And it's crazy to think that those are the guys that have really struggled since the start of June. Obviously, Soto had a great June, but those are the guys who have really not put it together over a lengthy period of time.
No, it's a good point you make, because all season long, and you and I have talked about this at other times, you were waiting for the guys at the bottom of the lineup, some of the guys you mentioned, the young kids, Vientos, Alvarez, to step up. We started to see some of that as of late. You're right. Now it's on the big dogs. Now it's on the Fantastic Four. They have to look the way you need them to look.
Also, I love that nickname way more than the Flushing Four. I like it way better than the other ones.
Fantastic Four. That's the way. That's what we're going with on this show. We're going with Fantastic Four. Fantastic
I'm
Four.
down. I'm going to pony that one.
All right, there we go. Fantastic Four is the way to go. I mean, and they were carrying the offense for quite some time, so you got to go with Fantastic Four. We'll see if they're fantastic down the stretch, Anthony. That is my guy, Anthony Gallo. Check him out on WFAN. Does a great job producing and hosting there as well. Also a fantastic Mets fan. Anthony, always appreciate you, man. First time on Straight Outta Flushing. We'll have to do it again. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, anytime, Dex. I appreciate you, man. Let's go, Mets.
Okay, Mets fans, let's head to the corner of why is this a thing and only in Flushing. It's time for another edition of Mets Mention. And we're going to start with a Reddit post that sent chills down the spines of Mets fans everywhere. One Brave fan, not a Braves fan, a Brave fan stumbled across these. An unused 2007 NLDS ticket stub that is still intact, and I'm going to say is still cursed. Now remember, that's the year that the Mets blew a 7-game lead with 17 games to play, and guess who was in the building for the final game of that season? Yep, your boy was in there. The tickets, never scanned. The hope, never realized. The memories, still painful. The comments suggested everything from a bonfire to a ritual cleanse to dropping them in the East River with an offering to Bartolo Colon. Now, me personally, I would not have touched these at all, but whatever. If you do have tickets like these still around from 2007 to 2008, do not frame these and hang them in your home. That's basically inviting a curse into your living room, something that you do not want. Meanwhile, Buck Showalter, coach first base for the Savannah Bananas. Yes, that is a sentence that we are still saying in 2025. Look, Buck did not get the postseason moment that he wanted in Flushing, but it's a nice moment for the former Mets manager. Shout out to Buck, a man who's been through the grind and is now just having fun with baseball. We can't all coach the Mets to 101 wins, but we can tip our caps to this new era of banana ball Buck. I like that. Good alliteration, has a nice ring to it. So, what did we learn this week? Well, I guess it's now understood that some relics belong in the past, like that ticket, and some legends, they belong in yellow pants. Not for me, but might be for some other people. So, the trade deadline came and went. David Stearns, well, he did his part. Gregory Soto, Tyler Rogers, Ryan Helsley. The bullpen, it's reinforced. The rotation held together, at least for now. The pieces, they're on the board. But let's be real, Mets fans. None of this matters if the Fantastic Four doesn't rise up. Brandon Nimmo, Juan Soto, Francisco Lindor, Pete Alonso. These are your guys. These are your stars. And in July, they looked more like Fantastic Forgets. So let's keep it a buck here. Since July 1st, the Mets offense, it's hit a brick wall. 229 batting average, bottom 3 in baseball, 382 slugging percentage. That ranks 24th out of the 30 teams in baseball. 693 OPS. That ranks 24th in all of baseball. A 211 batting average against left-handed pitching. Good for 28th. 241 batting average against right-handed pitching. That's 20th. Look, folks, that's not a postseason lineup. That's a postmortem. Nimmo, he barely slugged 300 last month. Soto, his OPS slid under 750. Lindor looked more frustrated than fierce. And the polar bear, he's still searching for his timing while chasing Strawberry's record. Look, every hitter slumps, but this ain't just a slump. This is a stretch that could derail a season if it continues. The Phillies, they aren't slowing down. The wild card is a war zone right now. The margin for error, it is shrinking by the day. August is separation season, and if the Mets want to seize this division or scare anyone in October, their stars need to carry the load. No more relying on Luis Torrens bloopers. No more hoping that Brett Beatty walks it off. The Fantastic Four have to be just that. Fantastic. You got bullpen help. You added power arms. But if Nimmo, Soto, Lindor, and Alonso don't wake up this month, well, the script quickly flips. It goes from postseason push to what could have been. All right. That's going to do it for another great episode. Special thanks to my producer, Erica Block, associate producer, Nick Federico, editor, Eduardo Guerrero, and production assistant, Tommy Cohen, holding it down. I'm Dexter Henry. We'll catch you next week on another edition of Straight Outta Flushing.